Thank you all. I hope that was useful and productive. We are going to go to reporting on the recommendations that we have that are pending and maybe coming up with some new ones. I can say for my part, for the Valley, we have 3 or 4. One is about, and a matter of fact, we may not be doing this one. It's about police reports and officer reports and legibility, good grammar, concise language, good descriptive language, etc. Because there were problems about the reports, but apparently it's going down the chain of command, and there's a new procedure coming up for officer report writing, but we might still submit it anyway. Our other one was, it was about, I should have come prepared for this. I do apologize. We had one, God, how awful to forget. No, we had 3 or 4. You know what? I'm going to gather my thoughts and see if any other CPCs want to report on the recommendations that they have pending. Any other CPC have recommendations pending? I know you do, Mike. Is that why your hand is up?
Yes. Actually, we had 2 recommendations probably 2-3 years ago. They responded within the 20 days. And they, if you look online, it says it's in progress. I've not heard a single thing back from APD about these 2 recommendations. And I will say this briefly and then shut up. There used to be a time when traffic control in cities, when back in the 1920s or so, they'd stand out on the street corners, put up their hands, blow a whistle, wave people through. We've got traffic lights. We've got traffic lights that can be controlled by the ART buses, etc. We've got RTCC. Technology can make life safer for both our officers and our community members and make everybody more efficient and effective at lower cost so that we don't have to endlessly whine about how we can't recruit or retain officers. Make life easier for them. So my 2 recommendations, one of them was something that my primary care physician used, essentially Google Glasses. She talked to me, did all the examinations. On the other end was a remote scribe, dictating, typing in all of the medical records. I recommended that APD at least talk to the folks who provide that technology to medicine and see how it could be adapted to police officers who are driving down. I was in response on a ride along, driving down Broadway at top speed, steering with their knee, typing on their computer, and then writing notes on their hands and their arms and pieces of paper. You could have a live scribe doing all of that stuff so that officers do not have to spend endless overtime hours writing reports and not quite getting it right. So that's one recommendation that is still in process. Another one was an evaluation and improvement of the Albuquerque Police mobile app. I've used this for 5 or 6 years. I've got the very first reports that I've made on it. I think that it's a marvelous thing. I saw somebody lying in the gutter on a busy street. He looked like he was dead. I reported it on APD app, and I got a phone call within 2 minutes from dispatch because they were so concerned. My typical response times on APD mobile app, 4 to 7 minutes. 4 to 7 minutes, and I have a record of every single one of those reports. And I know that talking about doing away with this app, that it's no longer supported, and that they're shifting over to Atlas One, which I have downloaded and am evaluating. So we have 2 recommendations that they have not even done any work on. They have not even called me back to say, Mike, what the heck are you talking about? But as I said, I think I even posted it in the chat this afternoon. I have probably 6 to 10 tech-related innovations. I've talked to the Commander Torres at Real Time Crime Center about some of these, and he shook his head and said, yeah, go ahead and write that up. We've got 8 more days to write them up so that we can submit them before the end of the quarter. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and
Mike, it's interesting that you bring up the scribe thing, because maybe it's because the Valley also submitted that recommendation. There was a lot of duplication on that recommendation. But I seem to remember being in discussion with somebody quite high up in APD, and they said that the scribe thing that you're talking about, you're talking about voice to software, right?
no.
Okay.
This is a live scribe who can actually talk to the officer and say, did you mean Schmidt or Smith?
Oh, okay.
By the way, my community conversations about recommendations to APD are open to everybody in the community, every CPC member across all 6 CPCs, so that we can't have this complaint that what the Southeast might suggest is not helpful for the Southwest.
Well, it's not just that, Mike. There's also duplication. There's a lot of duplication that happens, and it's partly because we don't necessarily connect with what so you're talking about 6 recommendations. If you could give just a quick thumbnail sketch of what they are for today's meeting, that would be very helpful.
I will, but I'd prefer to defer to other community members making their suggestions. I'm all ears. We've got a nice recording of this. I can get back in touch with the folks who are making those suggestions, recommendations, if they leave somehow an email or contact me. But I'd rather that we hear from the community.
I understand that, but the community needs to know what you're recommending. So that would be very helpful. Just
let them go first.
There's nobody, well, Wanda has her hand up and Adalia has her hand up. So I really would like you to do this for us. And then Karen, I'm sorry, you have your hand up too. Just very brief, just 1 sentence per. That's all I ask.
Okay.
So we know what they are. Or you can post them in the chat, whatever, but let's start. If
Okay.
you're not going to do
all
it.
right. I have, number one, I had a meeting last night that nobody showed up to, but I described what I understand as a business development process, that we anticipate, identify the goals, identify the problems or impediments. We hear every single recommendation, document them. We evaluate the pros and cons, the costs, return on investment, all of those business development things that people at Facebook would do, for example. And I'm not going to go into those. Okay, number one, the first one I call a case file. I call APD dispatch or ACS 311, and I have a person of interest, if you will, an offender, violent, drug addicted dealer, whatever. And instead of going through the endless repeated, I have probably 25 911 calls on my phone records, and I go through the same things every time. How tall is he? How old is he? What does he look like? Blah, 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 blah. If I could say, this is case file number whatever, and it's the case file that I create about repeated engagements with a single individual that shows his picture, has his name, shows his booking information at MDC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that I do not have to repeat that stuff for dispatch because they are stressed out. And I'd say it's case number whatever. They click on it and say, oh, yes. So that's number one. Go ahead.
You keep them down to one sentence, just one basic sentence. Just a thumbnail sketch about what your recommendations are that are pending. You don't need to explain them all.
Okay. Number two, we have VIN etching events.
Right.
I'm going to suggest a vehicle theft immobilizer event. I talked to this issue yesterday, and it would identify high theft vehicles by make, year, and model with a tech solution that you could come to an event and have it installed on your car. Okay, number three. Multi-agency victim alert system. And I understand that this would require state changes to state law, but domestic abuse victims can be notified when their abuser is let out of jail, released out of jail. And I'm saying that we ought to have a victim alert system that would include ACS, BCSO, New Mexico State Police, and MDC at a minimum to alert victims of assaults, break-ins, thefts, etc., when they're arrested, engaged, or jailed, or released from jail. Let's see here. This is to help the New Mexico, this is number 4, to help New Mexico Coalition to End Homelessness. They do a point-in-time survey every year. It is a survey. It simply talks to people who want to talk to them. It is not a census of homeless people. And I have a tech solution that would be a much greater estimate of the homeless population census. And
number 5.
And one more, number 5. I call APD, I get onto APD non-emergency number. I think that we need a ranking app. When I call Walgreens about my prescriptions, they walk me through a bunch of questions and say, press 1 if it's this, press 2 if it's that. If you've never encountered that, well, I guess you're not in the new age. But when I get on hold, please stay online. A dispatcher will be with you shortly. They could spend that 10 minutes asking me questions. Does the person seem to be in danger of losing life? Is there an assault? Do they have weapons? And through those questions, while you're waiting to talk to non-emergency, they could rank the call and say, oh, Mike's next. And these other people who've got cats in the trees are going to go to the bottom of the list. So those are 5 suggestions, and I will discuss those in more length in some of the meetings. Get in touch with me.
Thank you. That's helpful, just in case that there's duplication. Some of us are, okay, I've got 3 hands up so right now. So Idalia, and then Wanda, and then Karen. And we still have quite a bit of time, so don't worry.
Thank you, Rowan. So I just want to point something out that we have executive chats the 4th Monday of every month because we just incorporated a new members. This Monday is going to be our first executive chat with 10 people, and our main goal is to discuss recommendations. But so we're going to have a final list after Monday, but we have a few that we've been considering, and I'll just name those real quick. The first one is having annual retreats. Each CPC and also the Council of Chairs. The Foothills did this in March, I believe, Kelly. It was very helpful. It was at that time, I think there were 7 of us. We reviewed our goals for the year and what we wanted to accomplish, and it was very helpful. So it's one of my recommendations that we can have all of us, everybody that can attend a retreat, so that we can kind of just see where we're at, what our goals are as a team, because at the end of the day, we're all a team. We're all in the Community Policing Council. So I think a retreat would be great. The other one I already kind of, discussed, having at least one Spanish Community Policing Council meeting in a year, starting with that. That's 2. 3 would be getting more involved, advocating for crime bills, not only in the legislature, but city and county. That's number 3. Number 4, Facebook Live, and maybe, getting more connected with the YouTube channel so that more people can hear our dialogue within our area command. And then the last one would be providing dinner for our attendees during our Community Policing Council. Let me just tell you, this month, we had about 50 people attend our meeting, and I partner up with a nonprofit, and this nonprofit brought pizza and salad, and it was phenomenal. So, I think that if you provide dinner during a meeting that's 2 hours during dinner time, makes a big difference. We're all volunteers, and I think that makes a little bit of a difference. And I know we have the budget for it, but I'm still a little confused on how to go about it. I know that we asked Kelly for, the request, but I don't know exactly what the process would be in detail, so that way we can advertise, okay, yes, we'll have dinner for you. And it's nothing expensive, just pizza and salad. But just out of courtesy for people's times, for their time, to come and join us to have a crime dialogue once a month. So those are my recommendations as of now. Thank you.
Wanda?
Sorry, my roller button was in the wrong place for me to unmute myself. I wanted to follow up on what Mike was saying. I'll preface it with Erica Wilson has a hard time keeping her area fully staffed. That's why we wait on hold so long for our 911 242 cops calls. There's not enough people there. So Mike is a big proponent of the APD app, which I've been trying to promote in the Southwest, and to the point where I've searched for a month to find someone that can actually come to our November meeting and demonstrate how to use the app, because one of our community members and I didn't find it very intuitive. It was very difficult to use. And Mike, yes, I have been thinking of having you as a follow-up, but you're not necessarily always available during the times when you would be needed. But even though we were told that the app is going to be replaced shortly, and Mike, I think you did touch on that, we still want a demonstration on how to use it now. And we're going to want them to immediately come back and demonstrate the new app for us. But one issue that I'm having with that is the Southwest does not have enough police officers. And the reason we do not have enough police officers is because we do not have enough calls for service. The Southwest community members are frustrated for being on hold for so long and feeling like they get no response from APD. So they are beginning to not bother. The police, our commander is telling us all the time, please call, please call, please call, because what they're finding is we're not calling. Members of the Southwest community are not calling the police because we don't feel like we get a response. And I'm not saying that anything negatively about our commander, because I don't think that's the issue. I don't think that's the issue at all, but we're not feeling heard. So we're not calling, we're not waiting on hold for a half an hour. Mike has great comeback from the app. So we're hoping if our community members learn to use the app, they will begin to use the app. But my issue is No one from APD will explain what constitutes a call for service that counts towards whether or not you deserve, and I'll use the word deserve because that's the way it feels. It feels like they don't think the Southwest deserves to have more officers. No one will explain what constitutes a call for service. I have had people say, oh yeah, the app does, but then nobody will confirm that from APD. And I've had people say, your call does not count as a call for service unless the person that initiated that call speaks to an officer. And sometimes they don't hear back from the officer till like midnight. Well, then the officer doesn't want to call. It's midnight. So we are falling into a void and into a catch-22. And no one will explain to us what this means. What does a call for service mean? So yes, the Southwest feels very, very ignored and not helped, not supported in any way, shape, or form, because even when we ask the correct people the questions, they won't answer them. So I wanted to give a shout out to Mike. Mike, I hope you're right. And if anybody is interested, we're going to have a demonstration on the first Wednesday of the month, which is when we have our meetings beginning at 6:30. There will be a Zoom explanation on how to use the APD app. So if you want to have good success like Mike does, join us and learn how to use the app. Thank you.
Okay, Karen.
I will be there, Wanda. I want to see what it's all about. Is that app also in Spanish, I wonder? Mike, do you know?
I've not seen it in Spanish.
Well, maybe
sadly.
that's part of the problem too. If people don't do call-ins or report crimes, maybe it's because they can't understand. I try to do an app in Finnish all the time, and I spend a lot of time translating words. And I can imagine what that would be like for our Spanish-speaking community. All I wanted to report on for the Northwest is we have one recommendation in the hopper, and right now Kelly is working diligently with Tommy on this. And the recommendation in short form is that we're trying to get payback for victims of crimes whose cars have to be impounded in order to support solving the crime. They have to take their cars from them and put them into impound. And then to add insult to injury for a victim, they've got to pay the impound fees to get their car back. And so our recommendation is that we have victim support to cover these fees. And we'll see where it goes. That's all I had right now.
Super.
Yeah, that recommendation has been entered, and we have another one we're going to vote upon next month for a window breaking device for officers, which they do not have, Kelly, surprisingly. Really quickly, I'll bring everyone up to speed on recommendations. The CPC has made 60 recommendations that I found since 2015, the beginning. 21 have not. 29, have not been outrightly rejected, which means they were either accepted, partially accepted, or written as needs more time. This is not a perfect system because we had Chief Eden before who just sent a letter without a real acceptance or rejected or reject, but I've gone over every recommendation we've made since way before I started, 2015. I've sent a list of the ones that were considered applicable by APD, and there hasn't been much movement on more than 2 or 3 of them. So I sent them all in an Excel sheet to the APD leadership, to 5th floor, and they said they would look over these and get back to me on a status report on every recommendation we've made since the beginning. So,
Kelly, have you seen duplication in any of the recommendations?
there
Or did
has
you
been
leave those out?
there has been duplication on a couple. I know you and another council requested bicycle patrols, more bicycle patrols, and we got more. There were 1 or 2 other things also. And I was told from Tom Boris to the Southwest that he made the recommendation and it was accepted on the window breaking tool already. I couldn't find it. So I'm sure there are some recommendations that just went somewhere. We don't know where they are, but
Okay.
I found 60 altogether.
Okay, super. Thank you. Does anybody have any suggestions for recommendations? Representative Matthews?
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to, I just heard something. I want to be sure I heard it right. If your car is stolen and then it's recovered, you, as the owner, have to pay an impound fee to get it out of the, where it's been taken? Did I hear that correctly?
Sort
That's
of.
right. Sort
you-
of, okay.
If your car is actually, if the crime unit, the what do you call it? The NCIS sort of people need to use your car in an investigation. For instance, if there's a shooting and there's a bullet in the car, they need you to remove the bullet and, do the test on it. You are responsible for getting your car for the towing and storage fees.
Even though you weren't involved in it's some third party put the bullet in your car.
That's accurate, yes.
That is amazing to me.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of ass backwards. Okay. Is that a city ordinance or what?
Kelly, you're mute.
Oh, that's APD's policy.
Policy.
Yeah, it's a standard procedure.
You could probably out for us.
I'm sorry, what?
You could probably outlaw it for us.
Well, I was just
Make it
thinking
illegal.
that just is amazing to me.
I know.
That we make the victim pay for the cost of the, and is this a written policy, Kelly?
This is taken from the personal experience of a council member has a family member whose car was involved in a shooting. They had to tow the car to the APD lab, and then a week or so later, the car was they told him the car is ready to be picked up, but he had to go to a tow lot, which is private, pay the impound fees, and also the storage, the towing fees in one way.
And so, but I mean, is that a written policy of APD or the city?
It's not a written policy that they do cover the fees. So I guess it's a policy of omission, you should say.
Wow. If is that common throughout the state by police departments or sheriff offices?
I've not done research, to be honest, on that one.
Okay, and I assume that these fees could be several $100s.
Yes.
Whew. Well, maybe that is something we ought to outlaw. I had no idea. That's very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, Karen, then Mike. Karen?
I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
Quick follow-up on that. A family member was the victim of a hit and run. His vehicle was towed away and put into something, storage, impoundment. He had to pay for it as well. So it wasn't involved with a crime or whatever other than hit and run. He got smashed. The driver rode away. His vehicle was put in impoundment. He was put in the hospital for 3 or 4 weeks in a coma, and he had a charge to get his vehicle back. So it's not just shootings and other crimes.
Okay, we we have 12 more minutes. If anybody has announcements or any other comments to make. I really hope that this has been a useful meeting and that we've got things out of it. Susie, do you have a comment, or are you just doing your ready for your close-up, Mr. DeMille?
Oh, yeah, no, this guy, I was just petting his head.
So do you have any comments?
No, I think it's been a really good meeting. Yeah, that's good questions.
But you did mention, you wondered if the mission statement was still applying to all the CPCs.
Yeah, I mean, the comment was made that, you know, are we mission drifting, you know, each individually, collectively? And I guess the question that we as, you know, councils and then the council of chairs need to look at is, you know, what each individual council is doing, and, you know, are they following that mission? And then collectively, are we doing that and supporting that, you know, individually and together?
We might need to tweak it somewhat because we also owe it to the community to address their concerns and issues about the unhoused, about crime, about all that. And that is not in our mission statement. We don't have it directly saying that we serve as a bridge between the community and the police. It's somewhat nebulous. We promote and maintain positive, respectful, and supportive and cooperative interactions. But that's not to address everything that comes up at our meetings. So this is something that we're working on in November. So it's worth thinking about.
And maybe we need to continue to, as ACS grows, continue to have them as part of that conversation, that greater conversation, you know, collaboration or support of each other, and making sure the community knows those resources that are available to them and who to contact if they have questions.
Okay, Ms. Rogers has a question about the next CPA. Do you know when that is, Kelly? The next CPA?
I just sent her a note, me an email, and I researched it for her.
Okay.
This one should be ending soon, so it'll probably be early next year.
And let me just say about the CPA, it's not mandatory. It's useful, it's recommended, it's a good thing to go to, but it is not mandatory. And the next IMR, let's talk about that too. I think if we have at least 1 or 2 council members that have gone through the CPA, we can use them as sounding boards for our recommendations. They can address that. We don't all have to go to the CPA. And Elizabeth Martinez, the AUSA, has put up that the IMR, the next independent monitors report, is going to be filed on November the 9th, and the public hearing will be on December 6th. These are really well worth going to. They take all day. They take half your life, but they are really well worth participating in, and we are represented. We're an amici group, which means friends of the court, and we're able to address the judge directly during the hearing as part of the amici groups. I recently, just want to touch on this very briefly. The external force investigation team recently was part of it, was the hearing, the most recent hearing, which happened earlier this month. And I was present for that and read and gave a statement to the court. And one really useful thing to come out of it, this relates to use of force, that I do want to actually make into a recommendation, that that one of the things that EFIT is doing is going through a backlog of use of force reports, something like 690 something use of force reports, and they're trying to clear them. Elizabeth can correct me if I'm wrong, but the recommendation that came out of the amicis was that, and out of EFIT too, was that when an officer's report is finished, that a letter be put in their file saying which way it turned out, and also perhaps meeting with a superior officer to discuss the incident and discuss the sorry, I'm babbling. It's been a long meeting. to discuss the outcome. So that actually I'm thinking about having as a value recommendation. We also have amici meetings that you are welcome to. I think can the public attend the amici meetings, Elizabeth? She's probably gone. I'm not sure. And I don't know if you can answer that, Steve. And by the way, it's wonderful to see you here.
It's great to be here.
Mr. Rickman, Dr. Rickman, that's Nancy here, is the monitor for the community policing councils. But we can keep you posted about the hearings and everything. Oh, and Elizabeth says she'll find out if the public can attend the amici meetings. They're well worth it. They can be very informative and very interesting. I don't believe let's quickly give the locations for our CPC meetings. I know I didn't, and I think the rest of you did. But we're at the Johnny Tapia Community Center, and that's between Mountain and 6th, and with parking up at Rosemont. And we meet the 4th Thursday of every month, and we will not be meeting in November because of Thanksgiving. We've tried rescheduling it. We've tried changing the date, and it just doesn't work. And we will not be meeting in December because of the holidays. Mike, you're the only one with a hand up, so go for it.
Okay, I highly recommend the CPA, Citizen Police Academy, not to become, and take this with a grain of salt, not to become a, quote, cheerleader for APD. We need to understand what they face. We need to understand how we can help, and we need to be open-minded, hearing all perspectives, the people who hate police, the people who love the police, and everybody in between. But I will say that we have not made any progress on a sort of redacted, if you will, version of the CPA that people could do online, even if they have a current open criminal record. I have a candidate who's expressed interest in serving in the Southeast. He's got an open felony count for gun possession. He could not go to the CPA. He cannot serve on the CPC. And I've offered to stand in favor of him in a court hearing to say, yes, this person is really a good candidate. So I would like to pursue that, and that would be perhaps following through on a past recommendation that we have the CPA in virtual recordings with sufficient redaction of specific things that could allow criminals to, hey, oh, now I understand how to get around the police. But I think that we need an online version of that, of the CPA, and I highly recommend it, as I highly recommend the ride-alongs. And I should mention, unless unless policy has changed, you do not have to be serving on a CPC in order to do a ride-along. You simply have to pass the background check, and you have to sign away your life. If you get shot on a ride-along, tough luck.
Really quickly, they have changed that policy at this point. You need
Oh, good. Thank you. Go ahead.
You need to be attached to a city agency, CPC, CPOA, or interested in the police academy to go onto a ride-along. And even then, we're only allowed 2 ride-alongs per year because of APD staffing issues at this point. I got an email on that last week, and I'll send that out. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're at
Thank you.
11:58. We've got 2 minutes. If anybody wants to speak, speak now or forever hold your peace.